This is the sponsorship innovation session. So welcome all of you and those of you who are listening live. We don't know if you'll have time to ask questions, but please listen carefully. Today we are going to have 4 presentations from Guatemala, Thailand, Bolivia, and the United States. Oops, looks like I have to start from here. The United States, Guatemala, Thailand, and Bolivia. Okay? This innovation covers many aspects of sponsorship. So, acquisition, communication, engagement, and child experience. You will hear about acquiring sponsors through partnering with music artists, sharing the magic moments. We heard this morning about magic moments in a child's life with a sponsor, giving the child and donor an experience to remember, and a financial education as part of the gifts to families. So we are going to go on with the session in this way. We'll give each presenter 10 minutes to do a quick presentation, give you the highlights. We'll start with Jeff from US, and then we'll go on to Gwendolyn from Guatemala, and then we'll do Sanikan from Thailand, and then we'll do Abraham from Bolivia. And then we'll have 15 minutes for Q&A. So I have 5 minutes, so let me don't step over my time, because I'll be watching. So we'll start off with Jeff.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to stand up because I have the cool wireless mic here. So I actually feel like I should do karaoke or little Copacabana, but I'm the opening act, so we'll see if we can make technology work. And I have the clicker. I don't know if I can do 2 things at once, but we'll try. So, but you know what? Davidson's got the cool mic. I just have this. He's got the little wraparound thing. He's kind of got the cross between, Steve Jobs and Madonna going on. So, I don't know. So, hey, I'm Jeff with the Live Sponsor Acquisition Channel. We're going to talk a little bit about what that is. I only have 10 minutes. This is a complicated little channel with lots of moving parts, as our team would tell you. So I'm just going to breeze through the basics. So if you guys, there's lots of details. If you have any questions, please, Jeremy, Rachel, and I, we're all here. We're going to have an exhibit booth in the exhibit hall. So please don't hesitate to come talk to us afterwards with any specific questions. So the basics of what the live channel is in a nutshell, we partner with musicians and tours and events, anybody that can draw a crowd, basically, so that we can, and it gives us access to that crowd. They act as an advocate for the work that we do, and so that we can talk to them and talk to the crowd about child sponsorship. We have a speaker it's either usually the artists themselves or it's one of our own speakers internally that we send out to talk to them. And then we have a booth after the show, either at intermission or after the show, where they could come up and ask us more specifics about the work that we do and sponsor a child at that point. So the history of this is a very brief history of sponsor acquisition at ChildFund International. For years, decades, literally, it was television. And television was a great vehicle for us for many years. It was effective, but as the years went on, it became more expensive and it became less effective in terms of the numbers that we drew. So ChildFund began to start looking at more effective, cost-effective ways to do business. The live channel started in fiscal year 12, and I'm going to emphasize whenever we do something like this, I think it's good to start pretty small, because that way when you make your mistakes and you learn from your mistakes, and there were lots of mistakes that we did along the way. But we learned from all those mistakes. And our first year, we had 7 artists that we worked with, and we brought in just under 800 sponsorships, a big whopping 786 sponsorships we brought in that first year. But we did learn, and we learned from our mistakes, and as we continued to grow, so by the time fiscal 2015 came along, there were 24 artists that we worked with, and we got our number up to just under 10,000 sponsors. And then last year, our last fiscal year, was our biggest year yet, with 46 artists that we worked with, which is a lot of moving pieces, and we brought in just under 29,000 sponsorships. So we grew, and we got better at what we did. We still make mistakes, but we're learning from them daily. Just a quick overview, a few of the artists that we work with. I don't know if any of these names are going to mean anything to you guys, but we work with Newsboys. Newsboys is our biggest band in terms of the number of sponsorships they bring in. We work with a guy named Scott Stapp, who was in a band called Creed. I don't know if you guys have heard of Creed or not, but they sold 30 million records back in their day. Work with a guy named Carmen, work with a guy named David Crowder. But I think more importantly than the artists themselves is the message that we communicate to the audience. That's what I think is even more important than the artist. And there's 3 tenets that we try to establish as we do a messaging to the crowd. The first one is establishing the need, because it's American audiences specifically, they want to feel like the money that they're investing into sponsorships actually has some payoff, has some return. So we try to tell the stories of the children and the families that we serve. So the need is really important, but honestly, in my opinion, we have to establish the need, but it's more important to tell the story of hope, the hope that sponsorships bring. And a lot of you guys are program people in the countries where the children that we serve live. So first off, thank you, seriously, from the bottom of our heart, and from allowing us to be the conduit of the messaging of the programs that each of you design and deliver, because you guys are the ones firsthand that are delivering the hope for these kids. So that's the first 2 tenets, establishing the need and then telling the stories of hope. And then the third tenet is demonstrating how a donor can be part of that story of hope and how they can be on the team that delivers the hope through their financial giving through sponsorship. So one of the ways, okay, here we go. This is unfortunately, in the United States, the live channel, the artist acquisition channel, has become quite competitive. It seems like a lot of NGOs are on board with this right now, which means that a lot of concert goers hear this message a lot. And if they go to a certain genre of music, they'll hear it like at every concert. So we're constantly striving to keep our message fresh, to keep our message compelling, and to keep our message real and passionate and from the heart. And so part of what we did this summer is we partnered with the Mozambique National Office and their staff, and that was fun in and of itself to be able to partner with the national office there. But we sent Jeremy from our staff to go live in his sponsored child Spociso's village for a month. And so as a lot of you guys know that work in the national offices, us pampered Americans, we show up and we go look at the work during the day, and when the sun gets down, we get afraid and we go back to our nice little hotels and we use our flush toilets and we use our the hot running water. But Jeremy didn't do that. Jeremy wanted to actually experience what it was like to walk in the shoes of his sponsored child. He lived in the village for a month in the home of one of the directors, board of directors from one of the local partners there. So he slept on the floor. He ate the food that they ate. He didn't have the running water. He didn't have the flush toilets. I mean, he lived that life. But that was so that he could then go back and communicate that story to the American audiences, which brings an extra level of authenticity to the work that we're doing at ChildFund. And so he used these stories. This was in August, and in September already, he's on the road, going out on one of our tours, communicating that message to the American audiences. And that was pretty cool, because it's that kind of real personal stories that I think motivate an audience. It's one thing for us to get up and regurgitate a bunch of messaging points and statistics about poverty and hope that that moves someone. But it's a totally different thing when you're sharing from your heart as opposed to from your head. That's what makes the difference, I think, in the messaging, especially when you're delivering it to a live audience. So my time is probably almost up. I haven't gotten the 2-minute warning yet from Rob, so I think I'm all right. Come see us at the booth. Jeremy and I will be there tomorrow afternoon, or this afternoon and tomorrow afternoon. Jeremy would love to share the stories with you from Mozambique, and I'd love to answer any questions you have about the program. So with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague from Guatemala.
Thank you. I have my own. Okay, good afternoon. Jeff made the acquisition of donors. I will make the engagement and retention. And I'm going to talk about that, and I will talk about how in Guatemala are we doing that. Please, the presentation. Okay, this is a business model chart. in which I'm going to present our value proposition that is going to be Passport to Magic Moments. And for this, we have key partners in which we identify, first of all, ChildFund International and Alliance. We have, and of course, the sponsors. We have 80% from the USA and 20% from the Alliance. We have to talk with Australia. We also have a local partner in which we're working with. It's Tierra Nueva, that is in the Western Highlands of Guatemala. The outsourcing that is taking care of, in charge of the translations and all the communications transactional processes, and of course, families and community leaders of these local partners. Our key activities are first to transport the sponsor to where the child is and connect them. Sharing special and significant moments in the life of children, adolescents, and youth within its context in order to connect and engage. These are the famous magic moments, and we are going to capture them from daily life, from achievements or happy endings, and significant moments that they have in life. This is one photo and an example of a magic moment that was captured in the central part of Guatemala. That it's Melanie, 3 years old. Now I know the foods that I should not eat because they are not good for me. And that was part of what was captured. And also it is going to be used as an input for digital playground and program integration of the ends. What is our value proposition? It's a passport to magic moments, a journey to a successful sponsorship adventure. How are we going to do this? Through this welcome passport that is going to be delivered to the sponsor. This has a welcome and bonding. This is used instead of the welcome and bonding letter with child, family, and community information. This is very important because in this we are talking a little bit about each program model, and we are saying to the sponsor that it is a journey through the departure gate, that is life stage 1, and it's an arrival in gate 3. So they don't see the sponsorship just for a moment, but it's an engagement from the beginning to the end. And with family photo nestled with touristic places, because, you know, it's a passport, so we're getting that idea. The child is also getting a passport kit. This passport kit has friendly activities, has a friendly welcome from the country director, with record of participation. That means that every time the child goes to an activity, it gets records in its card, and with space to write and share special and significant moments. If they want to write something that they learn, this is the space to write it. Or if the family wants to write a magic moment, this is the way. This is one way. And we also have in all the communications pieces the Instagram code in order to access to additional information, photos, stories, and more. What do we want with our customer relationships? We want to make communications more significant and emotional. The customer segments in which we are doing these pilots, it's new sponsors of even child numbers from Tierra Nueva local partner, and all enrolled children from Tierra Nueva local partner will have a passport when enrolling and when having a new sponsors. In that we are not making any difference between odd or even child numbers. The channels that we're going to use by normal mail, as always, child passport, initiated letter, sponsor reply letter, CPR, and spontaneous letter by normal mail. And we are using also through social networks. For example, this record is done every week, and in 1 week we have 337 followers, 2,300 visits, and we can see per age, per country, and per sex. It doesn't appear, still doesn't appear the US over here. About cost structure, structure. We want to reduce child frustration. If you see the first line of the chart, that is the amount of letters written by the children, and the one that is below is the amount of letters written by the sponsor. So we want to reduce the frustration in grading too many letters without response. We want also to reduce courier and translation cost. We wanted to get 10% low. And because with this pilot, we are having the 51% of all communications. And how are we doing that? With one-to-many communications, and also with the bonding of welcome and bonding letter. And also to focus on programming, we want to reduce hours invested in communication processes, all the transactional processes that are done. And what are going to be our key resources? Of course, K-participation. We need them to participate, and we want to motivate them to do that. Family engagement. And we have to measure the sponsor retention, reason for canceling, income, number of letters, number of children who use Passport to share magic moments, the cost, the number of hours spent in correspondence, survey results, and Instagram visits. All of that is going to be measured, and it's already been measured. What do we want? We want to increase, of course, the sponsor retention. This has been the tendency, and we want to get into the net zero. So putting equal the canceling to the sponsor acquisition. Of course, children and youth participation. And these are some prior results that we have for the first 2 months of implementation of this project. If you see, this pilot is being done with the even child numbers, and the odd child numbers are the control group. And if you see the results, what do you see there? The crowd went dead. Okay. Okay. The results are that in even numbers, the retention was of 98% compared to the odd numbers that are not in the pilot. Oh, so what are we doing then, you're going to ask? You know that the first month, we have all the sponsors that were retained by Salesforce and that we didn't know that were new acquisitions. So we have them from May to September to July. So I think the 98% is a high percentage of retention if we got from May to September not having any communications with the ones we were capturing. So this is one explanation. It's not the explanation. But these are the data, and that's it. Another thing is the local partner. Another thing is how many sponsors growth. The even child numbers growth 1.39%, and without numbers 6.45. You know, that's another interesting fact. And the sponsor reply letter, the same as because they were answers to what the sponsor wrote. Then from the local partner satisfaction in terms of content, time invested, integration, collecting data, and Instagram site, normally the attendance is in good, some regular. We have to keep moving this. And one thing is the Instagram. They are really wanting to share more through the social networks, and that's a good thing. And what about children and family? They feel happy and enthusiastic. We made a survey to them. They feel motivated to participate. They like to record their activities. They like having their picture and record of participation. And they want to share their activities. So that's all. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Sanikan from CCF Thailand. I prefer to sit. And today I would like to present on the sponsor Meet Child, or we call in short that SMC. The SMC, our objectives are in the three areas. The first one is the sponsor retention. The SMC will help us to enhance sponsor understanding about our program, and also the SMC will build up the good relationship between sponsor and the child. For the second objective is about the child development. The SMC will help us to enhance the child's experience and learning from the study trip. And the last one, our objective is the fundraising. We have the SMC to raise additional donation from existing donor. For the results from the SMC innovation that we had in the past several years, in terms of the sponsor retention, we got the very strong bonding from between the child and sponsor. Our sponsor also advocate for us on the stage, and the sponsor also share the SMC experience through their network on the social media. And in the area of the child development, the sponsor paid the trip for the child to come, and the child had the experience from the educational trip. Also, the children had the experience to show them on the their skill on the street, on the stage. And in the last area, we focus on the fundraising. From the SMC event, we gain more income, which from last year we got like $600,000 from only one single SMC event in the 13 event in 1 year. And mostly we gain the income from the telemarketing, about 93.8%. And also we receive some more new sponsorship and DFC, and also many supporters support us give in kind. This is some environment and photo that we have. As you can see that the sponsor, they are very happy to see the child, and they are so proud to speak on the stage on behalf of the CCF. And many people took the photo and video, and they share on their social network. Also, our long-term and key supporter also provide us the gift in kind. This person provide us the bakery every time that we organize the event. For the result that we obtain from the child development, mostly the children who came to visit us in Bangkok, it's the first time for them. So they were really excited, and they learned a lot from the education trip. They had opportunities to visit many museums, visit the history park, and some ancient city open museum. And it's the first time that they fly through the airplane that we got the support from the sponsor, and they experience SkyTrain as well. And in terms of the child development in the area of the self-confidence, the children gain more confidence because they had the chance to come to the event and perform their skill. For example, they may have some skill on the speaking, or perform the stage performance such as singing, puppet show, or some other thing that they can do. They can also show their live exhibition, for example, weaving or making some craft, painting, and demonstrating some farm techniques. And the result number 3 in the area of fundraising. For our SMC event, we use the high technology as well. We upgrade the sponsor through the mostly we have the telemarketing team to call on this. We have our own software called SRIS for the telesale and monitoring, and we also use the Facebook Live on the performance that the children show on the stage. And also we ask the children to do the video clip and send to the sponsor who could not come to join the event. In terms of the area of fundraising, the result from last year, we also advocate for more support through the event booth, and also we raise the support from our existing donor and some other partner to get the gift in kind, to get free entrance or some free transportation and cheaper hotel room. And we also arrange the shooting photo for the sponsor and send it to them, and we film the celebrity to promote and encourage people to support more. This is the detail of our performance last year. We target to raise fund through the SMC about $40,000 US, and the actual result is about $600,000 US. Mostly it comes from the telemarketing, and we also gain more support during the event, for example, the FC and booth sales. Behind the event, we plan in several steps to prepare for SMC. The step 1, we verify the list, which mostly we use the list from the children aged from 9 years old up, and we prepare the number of sponsors to develop the timetable, cost, and also activity plan. Step 2, we ask to the telemarketing, and also we send the email and letter to the existing sponsor. Step 3, we hold a meeting with the relevant partner and the community to get support from them, and also ask the permission from the parents. We also buy the insurance for the children. Step 4, we prepare logistics. Step 5, we prepare the report back. And step 6, we prepare photo shooting, and also we send the thank you letter and sponsor to the sponsor who could not come. We have the challenge, although we got some very good support, but we still have the challenge that mostly the sponsor could not come very often. You can see that from last 4 years back, only 600 something out of the 9,000 who can come, who can support every year, and it count about 6% only. So we plan to have the phone call with specific segment instead, in order to get more support. And also another challenge is that children cannot come and at the last minute, so that we try to get them to meet the sponsor later. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Abraham. I am from Bolivia. And now I'm going to share the experience of the DFC electronic payment. First, we wanted to know what was the problem with the previous system. The first one is that the whole process was very complicated. A lot of steps, a lot of requirements to the family, requirements to the local partner. So it was a big job for a small amount of money. The families also sometimes they refused to travel a lot of distance from home to the local partner to have only $1, $2. And on the other hand, sometimes when the DFC was $50 or more, it was a sort of danger for the family to have this amount of money in cash. That was another problem. The local partner staff also said that and one problem is the time to prepare the DFCs, the lists, the calling the families by phone, and all the day paying the DFCs. And another problem is that even local partners said that we have a lot of money here in our offices in cash, so it is a danger for ourselves. So due to these problems, we made this pilot. The first thing we made is that we selected a provider. So we saw different banks. We saw a telephone company that used to pay with the cell phones too. But at the end, we selected a bank, which is Mercantil Santa Cruz. The advantage is that we work as ChildFund Bolivia. We work with this bank. So we told these people that we can offer them more than 1,000 new clients. That was the key for them to accept. And especially, we saw that these banks works in all the country, and they also have small offices in rural places with small banks. So it was our opportunity to reach small communities. So the local partner makes an agreement with this bank. Every local partner of our Bolivia signed an agreement with the bank, and they begin to training families, communicate families for the new experience. Because many families who we work, they are not accustomed to work with banks. They don't have a bank account. They also have a small amounts of money in cash. The bank also said that they would not cost anything to open a new account, which is not normal in Bolivia. You need to have at least a minimum amount of money so you can open the bank account. In this case, we managed to get the zero cost to open a new account. And we have chosen 4 local partners for this pilot. The difference from the test D, test E, and test F, it is that the first one, all the families receive the DFC electronic payment, and all the families or all the children make the thank you letter, the common thank you letter that we all already know. The second one, they all receive the DFC electronic payment, but we have 2 different kinds of letters. When the amount is above $20, the children writes the thank you letter. If the DFC is above $20, national office prints an electronic letter with the signature of our national director. So this goes directly informing the sponsor that the children receive the money, and we inform them that the date, the amount, and the transaction was done. And the third test was with another local partner with the same, but above $50, the children writes the letter, and below $50, there is the electronic letter. And there was a 4th local partner with the normal process of the previous DFC payment, which is the control. So, I'm sorry. Okay, the first thing that the local partner did is that they informed the families. The families had the chance to open a bank account, but as Mario said this morning, they were not familiar with this process. That is pretty common for us to have a credit card, a debit card, and pay it. For these families, this was a very, very new, and the local partner was very clever to create very creative ATMs to teach families how to use the credit card, how to understand the PIN number, not to share it. Everything that we think that is pretty common, we try to teach them from zero. So this is something very important because we also, our local partners teach families the importance for saving. Even though if they have a DFC of $1, $5 a month, it is important to save that money to have something from the future, right? We also created these new letters that I already mentioned. They are more friendly for children. They are more easier to fill in, and if you visit us in the fair, you're going to see the model. So we saved also paper because the same letter becomes the envelope. And we have also a system that is similar to that one that Mario shared this morning. And this system is called Silo, which in Spanish has the name. But the interesting thing is that with this system, we can register every step of the process. When the money arrives, we know where the children lives in the map. We know the bank account number of every children, and we know the amount that goes to every bank account. So that helps us to accountability, that avoids fraud, and we also train it to parents committee of every local partner because they are the ones who approve every payment. So if the parents committee make a mistake, they also know that it is very important to check every payment. This Silo also is the one that prints the automatic letter that helps us to save a lot of time, especially because children don't need to write a letter for a small amount of money. So this is a test and evaluation we made with families. Maybe you won't be able to read the questions, but fast I will show you. We asked them about how easy it is. 95% they say it's easy. Another local partners 83%. I mean, it's a lot of people, they think it's easy and safe, this new procedure. What about satisfaction? 100% are satisfied in one local partner. Another one is 82 or 83%. How about the difficult was to learn this one? 50%, 30%, 40%. So it was some challenges, but it was easy to learn this one. How was the training? 100% said it was great to learn a new thing. And so you can see more details in the fair again. What are the challenges that we faced in this new pilot? Some families are not literate. They cannot even read in Spanish. So that was a challenge to teach them very slowly and carefully how to use an ATM, for example, or open a bank account. Another challenge is that our first month, because none of our families had a bank account, so the process is getting some slow until all our families have a bank account. Later is of course much easier because it's just the electronic transfer. And some extra arrangement with the bank. What about the results? First one is more effectiveness, especially in time. We saved a lot of time, and of course in money. We saved a lot of money in the process. Electronic payments are effective in per-urban areas and communities that are not in big cities because of this bank. And families are open to learn this new process. They are not close to new things, and they are very satisfied in general with the new process. We have also the perceptions of the families. We have a lot of testimonies that they say that it is easier, is friendly, and the more important is that Mario also said this morning, they feel empowered when they have this card. They feel included in the system, which they also never thought to have a bank account or use the ATM. This is very important for them. They feel more a citizen, a more complete citizen when they have this process. And they also learn that it is possible to save money. That is another testimony that we heard. Technicians, I mean the local partner staff also said that it's more effective and efficient because it saves a lot of time in the daily work. Of course, we reduce costs, and of course, we is very secure on anti-fraud systems or accountability, as I already said. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have exactly like 13 minutes to the end of the session. I'm keeping time. So we're going to throw it open to you if you have questions for our innovators here. These innovations touch the very heart of sponsorship. Yeah, DFC, we've been struggling with that for a while. How do we make it easy? The process is very, very cumbersome. Thank you very much, Abraham. And it also touches on retention. It touches on acquisition. So please, if you have questions, the floor is open. Jason? Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Jason Schwartzman. A question for, thank you for all of the presentations, and I really like the way they built on each other. Jeff, a question for you. From the acquisition point of view, when you look downstream and look at the kind of messaging that goes on after the acquisition goes on, are there things that you think it would be great to be highlighting that are not adequately highlighted? I don't know how to put it. Now, you just like to see more of. And then I'm especially curious whether you think these examples of the Instagram or Facebook Live, those kinds of more digital experiences, whether you think that would be really compelling from a retention point of view moving forward.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That's a great question. As I mentioned, when we try to do our messaging, we try to make the kids as real as possible to potential sponsors. I think one of the challenges we face is taking it from intellectual knowledge to heart knowledge. I think the question we get is, do those kids really exist? I mean, they see the pictures on the packets, and they believe in their head that those kids probably exist somewhere in the world, but our job specifically, and Jeremy's job in particular, is to convince them, is to tell the stories of these kids and make these kids real so that they tear at your heart. So to your question, on the retention side, for me personally, and people that have listened to me, like Leslie or Virginia, who have been working on our retention strategies, and more recently Jason, I think it's about the relationship with the child. I mean, there's a lot of components that go into retention, but me personally, I think that's the key measure. We want to make the child so real to them, both prior to acquisition and certainly post-acquisition, that if they decide to stop their sponsorship, it's not that they stop giving money to ChildFund, it's that they stop helping that specific child that they form a relationship with. So in terms of, you know, the magic moments, or in terms of letter writing, in terms of social media, anything we could do to utilize those channels to make these kids more real, it's going to be more difficult for them to stop sponsoring, unless it's a financial hardship situation, of course. But, you know, one of the things, you know, that Brand X, one of our competitors, World Vision, does is they actually do videos of these kids, and you could go online and see video of your child. And what, in my mind, that to me is kind of the epitome of making that child real. So.
Thank you. Yes, Famara, can you come to the mic, please?
Okay, I am Famara Dabo from ChildFund, the Gambia. So I have 3 different questions. One is to the life, Jeff, yeah? At the country office level, we do see some things that we are not very much familiar with. For example, you receive a welcome, an MCS for a new sponsor today. Within a week, this sponsor is cancelled before you process the welcome and other letters. So you did talk about using those live events and raising, you know, a lot of sponsors. Do we normally find out how many of those we are able to retain? How many of those continue after agreeing to support? That's one of the question. The second one goes to my colleague from regarding the retention and acquisition. You talk about 98% for the even numbers and 100%. So did you do any baseline to know at the time of this innovation, this is where we are? So we know how we progress, even though it's still at an early age. Okay, the final one is to, you know, the DFC electronic payment, which actually moves me. And I think that's something that I personally want to see how we invest energy and time into. But in terms of the process, you talked about the local partner signing agreement with the bank. So who pays the money? You know, using the NFM, the new funding model, funds come to the working fund, right? So how do you do it? Do you pay the money to the local partner, and the local partner pays to the bank? I know that's that process I want to understand. So how do you go about that? Thank you.
So we'll start with Jeff.
Oh, no, I figured if you started with them, they'd forget about my question.
We don't want you to forget your question.
That's fine. That's a very good question. Thank you for answering it. And it's one that we struggle with both in our messaging and the environment, because we do realize that music is a very emotional vehicle, and the stories that we tell can be very emotional and pull on the heartstrings. And so we want to make sure that at the same time when we communicate our message, that we do talk about it as a commitment. This is a journey that you're walking with your sponsored child. At the same time, you know, you mentioned that you see that they come in and a week later it does get canceled. I think that probably happens with any acquisition channel. Rachel, who's on our team back there, actually runs reports for us every month by the specific artists as to what their retention is. Like how long do they sponsor before they drop off? And we've learned from that. We've talked about some of the mistakes that we've made. We've learned that the younger the demographic, they tend not to sponsor as long. They'll sponsor for a month or two, and then they forget about it, because, you know, and with we didn't talk about face-to-face, but our face-to-face teams as well, they don't even take sponsorships from anyone under 25. We don't have that rule in the live space, but we do that with face-to-face because we are concerned about retention. Because it costs us money to acquire a sponsor, and we pay that money whether they stick with us, 1 week or 10 years. And so we do monitor that on a monthly basis, and we do try to improve on our messaging so that specific scenario that you addressed doesn't happen near as often. And I'm sure it seems like it happens a lot when you look at it, but we've gotten our averages down that about 90% stick with us through the first year anyway. But we don't want them to stay just a year. We want them to stay 3 years and 5 years and 10 years. So, but I hear what you're saying.
Okay, referring to my question, we have a generic baseline, but not as specific as we are now measuring it. And that is why we have a control group and a sample group in order to see the difference.
Okay. Abraham?
Yes. Well, once the money arrives to the country, it is transferred to the local partner. The local partner has the list of the children they are going to pay. So it's like a common electronic transfer. I have the bank account, so I check the money, I check the bank account, and I just click. But the interesting is that I also have the phone number, the mobile number for every one of these families or kids. So they also send an SMS message to let them know that the amount of money arrived and the payment is this date and time. So once we know that the payment is done, they call the family to the local partner to write the thank you letter, or is automatically generated by the system.
Okay, we have a couple of minutes. I can take one more question, if there is. Okay, otherwise I have one question. And it's for you, my sister, Sanikan. Given that child protection is a key issue for ChildFund, and you're bringing children and sponsors together, what advice do you have for other national or other country offices that would want to do what you're doing to help safeguard children against potential child protection issues?
Normally, we include the ChildFund, child protection and child safeguard in our operation. All the documents we have in the operation, and normally we also concern and consult with the parents. We work with the community and we work with the volunteer to support our activity on this. So we both concern about the internal and external. So everyone that participate in our activity will have to recognize our policy.
Thank you. One more, Jeff. I'm thinking that the artist selection is a very important part of this process. So what are some of the considerations that you have for choosing or selecting a particular artist?
Sure. Part of it is their passion. One of the things that was talked about this morning when the Australia team was talking about the Rugby World Cup is finding out what their motivation is. We don't want to do a square peg through a round hole kind of a thing. And so when we usually do some of our initial conversations with these artists, we talk about where their heart is, because it may be in child advocacy as a whole, but maybe it's human trafficking, or maybe it's clean water, or maybe it's education. And so first of all, we want someone that's passionate about the work that we do, but then we try to cater our message around where their passions are. But secondly, it's not always about the artist as much as it's about the audience that they draw. Obviously, the artists are an active participant, but we want to make sure, getting back to the point that was raised earlier, we want to make sure that the demographic that we speak to is more of our target demographic, which usually means families. moms and dads that have little kids we've found that tend to resonate more with our messaging and respond accordingly. So it has almost as much to do with the audience than it does the artist.
Great. 1 minute warning. Any last question out there? No. Okay. Well, I mean, just to round up, I think several things came out of the innovations that my colleagues here have been working on. Each one of them talks about partnership. You can't do innovation alone. You have to partner. It's either the local partner or the sponsor becomes a partner or an alliance member is part of the partnership. And then there is always some learning aspect that you get out of an innovation that is done. And of course, with innovation comes change. You have to let something go, and you are bringing something new. And finally, we heard from all of them that there's always a challenge. Challenges come with innovation. The key is that you must be able to sit back, reflect, and say, how do I deal with this challenge to go on? So with that, thank you very much, my innovators here, and great job. Thank you all very much.